Antrich und Ehre, was ich dir noch angesäche, so bist du ihr aller Ehre. Was ist Wundes hier geschehen? Dass ein Magd ein Kind gebar, ihre über aller Engel Schar. Was das nicht ein Wunder gab.
This is The New Right, a podcast for the lost arts, reclaiming the literary holy land from the heathen. This is Dan Baltic. We are not joined by Matt today, unfortunately. As we all know by now, he is a world traveler. He occupies both coasts in America. Some say he's everywhere at once, but in today's case, he is not here. So, but I am here, and I am here with Kevin Kautzman, previous guest of the show, friend of the pod, but just as, if not more importantly, the founder, along with Brad Kelly, of Art of Darkness podcast, which is, I mean, I'm sure all of you know already, but a tremendous literary, I'm not going to call it criticism exactly, literary biography podcast, literary history podcast, where they explore the lives of artists who have passed and often have held a certain amount of darkness in their souls. In addition to that, Kevin is the one of the founders of Badmouth Theater Company, a theater company in Minneapolis, which is doing some excellent work, including producing Kevin's play, The Very Good. We've discussed it previously. It's received readings. It's very good. Moderation, which is a two-hander, and in the theater industry, that means there's two people on stage at the same time, and they discuss in moderation the topic of social media moderation and how truly horrific it can be. And this is a bit of a thriller. It's a bit of a horror story in some sense. It's great in any case. Kevin also recently wrote the play Basilisk, the radio drama that's distinct from a stage play, and has been produced by Dark Pony Radio. I just listened to it this week. I recommend all of you do. Audio dramas are an underrated form of entertainment. All of us are nerds who listen to podcasts, but in addition to podcasts, there are actual plays that you can listen to that are you would think like, oh, listening to a play being read is not entertaining. It actually it is if it is an audio drama because there are aspects of it that it's made for the listener, and Basilisk is a great one. So without further ado, welcome to the show. Great to have you back, Kevin.
Great to be with the Nut Man once again. I'm really, really happy to be here. Thank you, Dan, for
Absolutely.
hosting. Yeah, and for that really, really kind intro. I really appreciate it. Just want to say if you're in and around the Twin Cities, we are doing moderation in October 2024 here, October 3rd to the 13th at The Hive. Tickets are already on sales at moderationplay.com. Really excited about that. I've got a great cast. We're in rehearsals right now. We did a week of Zoom rehearsals, which maybe work better than normal for a play like this. It's a very online play about these social media content moderators struggling at work. And so it's just, it's just been a great time so far. I'm actually getting a call right now from Brad Kelly, from my co-host on Art of Darkness. I'm going to send him to voicemail.
Tell
I
Brad
got
I
a
said
text.
hi.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. The Nutman says hi, Brad. And yeah, and of course, Brad and I do Art of Darkness at artofdarkpod.com, and we just released a Bowie episode. So 6.5 hours on David Bowie. Had a great time doing that. And if you don't know Art of Darkness, it's at darkpod.com. I'm gonna text Brad right now. And how have you
Excellent.
been? How are things on New Right? I was checking out some of your recent episodes. You were talking about the vice president pick. You were talking about an elegy for Dark MAGA. Is that what you were doing?
I believe that was the episode title. Yes, an elegy for dark MAGA, or no, for weird MAGA. And yeah, I mean, New Right is going great. Perhaps we're not coming out as frequently as we, would hope to be, but we're correcting that. And with this episode with you, Kevin, we have an upcoming episode on. We did our episode on an elegy for the Hillbilly Elegy, a
Hmm.
literary review of that, a discussion more broadly of J.D. Vance and his socio-political role. But we're about to release an episode on Trump. And this is rooted in a book review of hours of esoteric Trumpism by Konstantin von Hofmeister. He's a one of the publishers and I think believe the editor in chief of Arctos. And it's a good book with the essays and such. And Trump is just, I mean, as I'm sure you agree, such a fascinating figure in 21st century history. And there's so much to say about him, both from the perspective of, him as an entertainer, but also, as a political, figure, a leader. And I think, the past few months have exemplified exactly, what a leader he is. So.
I mean, history's back on the menu, boys. It's
Exactly.
been it has been a wild year, and we steer clear of politics on Art of Darkness. It comes up periodically, but I've been very invested in it, especially since the assassination attempt that didn't happen, Schrodinger's assassination attempt. Such a strange moment, and yeah, I've certainly been paying very, very close attention to it, and was interested in listening to your episode where you were talking about it. And of course, JD Vance is finally a millennial, is
Yeah.
uh,
Finally, we got one
uh,
up there.
yeah, on the ballot. Yeah, for sure. So, I appreciate what you were bringing it back to that nice intro you gave. I appreciate you mentioning Basilisk, and if people want to go listen to that, it's in two parts. It is a very online AI horror thriller. If you just go to Dark Pony Radio on Spotify or you look up Basilisk Dark Pony Radio, you'll find it. And if you know about the thought experiment of Rocco's Basilisk, you're going to be kind of familiar with the terrain that radio drama explores, that play explores. And I wrote that with the great Abby Lucas. Abby is a director. She and I write screenplays together. We're working on a script for Killdozer, the musical. I know people are excited about
Awesome.
that. Whenever I mention Killdozer, the musical, people get excited. We got like 35 pages. So we're working on that. But we took a little detour to write Basilisk, and I'm very, very pleased with how it turned out. I think the Dark Pony Radio people are great. It was nice to just have somebody come to us and say, "Hey, write something," and then we will produce it. And I got to involve
Amazing.
my Badmouth Theater Company co-founder Amanda Forstrom, who's in moderation. I got to involve her. She plays, one of the three characters in Basilisk. Well, she's one of the actors in Basilisk. There's more than three characters, but it's sort of a big reveal as you're listening. But Amanda's great, and yeah, just what a good time. And it's just a nice moment for me in my career, my creative life, where I feel like between Art of Darkness, the theater company, sort of getting out there, I do a little radio show through my theater company as well here in town. I feel like I've started to make these connections where it's like I'm writing for a specific actor because we've been asked to write something, and it's like all the pieces are coming together, and
Mm.
it's a very rewarding time. And yeah, and I'd love personally to see a revival or a renewal of the idea of radio drama
Mm,
because I think one of the challenges independent people have is actually getting from zero to one. How do you actually produce and release something that can be heard by, people and consumed by people? We don't really have a culture of radio drama in this country, though we do now have a culture of podcasting. So I think it's just
exactly.
yeah, I think it's just one door over, and it was really, really fun to write with the idea of audio in mind specifically. Yeah.
How is that process different for you than writing a stage play? Because I have to admit, so I've written stage plays, I've written a novel or novels, obviously, but I've never written an audio drama. And there are obviously, in listening to it, I realize there are aspects that you can only really accomplish via knowing that it's just audio. So there, you have to write. I would imagine you have to write knowing that people aren't going to be able to see what's happening on
Yeah.
stage. So you have to use the words to, guide everyone through it. And also, sound effects, all of that. So I'm curious, well, what was the first audio drama you ever wrote? And how does the process differ than writing a stage play?
I mean, this was the first audio drama that I've written explicitly to be, for the
Oh,
radio. So this is the
okay.
first case of it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, and I think uh, you know, I think coming from a playwriting background probably makes it easier to write a radio play than it would be if you were coming from a screenwriting background.
Hmm.
I think if you're a pure screenwriter, you're really trained to think visually,
Yeah.
really trained. Whereas a playwright thinks in dialogue typically. You're thinking in yeah, dialogue drives things. So I don't think it's that much of a leap to go from writing like a two-hander, a stage play two-hander, to writing a radio drama for three people, the three actors. I think the idea as we were working on it was to write like we would write a normal chamber play, like a play with. I mean, this play only has two locations, three actors. It's very narrow. Sorry, three locations. Takes place in a prison. All the locations are inside this prison. So you've already done that sort of dramaturgical thing where you've really homed in on a location. Once you've done that, now you start thinking about what it sounds like in prison,
Yeah.
and what it sounds like in jail. You ever spend any time in jail, Dan?
Thankfully not.
I I'll just say I've done some research, right? No, but I mean, you actually can think about it.
Yeah,
What does it sound like in a modern prison? So we did a little research, and it's never quiet. You're never really getting fully, peace and quiet. Somebody's always screaming. They're always checking doors. A door is always opening or closing. There's always a television. So you're thinking about all of those sounds. Then there's also that issue of exposition.
mm,
How do you establish for the audience in a way that is natural and immediate where this is happening, and
mm.
you do it through dialogue, right? But you can't just come have the first character come out and say, "Well, I'm in prison now, gee whiz," right? So you have to massage it in so that I
Yeah,
think anyway, And beyond that, I mean, we wrote it like I would normally write a play. Abby and I, believe it or not, we'd never written a play together, so this is a first for us. We'd written screenplays.
sure.
She's a film director first. She's Abby Lucas, no relation to George, but the same spelling, abbylucas.com. Abbie. She's fantastic. And she's been on Art of Darkness. She's going to come on and do the Hitchcock episode with me here pretty
Oh,
soon.
nice.
Yeah, really going to be fun. But so we approached it like a play. But then, when it was time, when we were sort of putting the finishing touches on it, we definitely went back and focused on sound. What what are we going to do with sound? How are we going to direct the audio engineer in a way without using too heavy a hand? And then there's a rather climactic moment in the second part where some business happens that's really, really important to the plot. And we decided to use something that was audio oriented, obviously, because that's what, that's what the
Yeah,
audience is going to hear. And it involves Morse code and the AI and some programming for the AI. And if you listen to it, you'll get what we did. And I just think that comes naturally, right? You're writing for the medium, use the medium. There you are. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
It the sound effects, I mean the way it's used. One of the ways I evaluate whether a podcast or, I suppose I don't listen to a ton of radio dramas, but certainly a radio drama as well, whether it's working is do I have to keep rewinding to, say like, oh, what happened? And obviously, okay, you have podcasts that drop a lot of info. So like a Dan Carlin Hardcore History or the literary equivalent Art of Darkness. But you know,
Sure.
one of the hallmarks I think of both of yours there and of this of Basilisk is I don't have to go back and see like, oh, what did they say? What did they? Because like it's delivered in a way that's entertaining and engaging and keeps you moving. And I'm not going to name any names, but there are definitely podcasts out there that are research heavy, deliver a lot of, good facts and stuff, but I'll listen to it for 5 minutes and I'll say, like, I don't remember what I just heard. It's delivered too dryly. So
Mm.
yeah, it
And I, yeah, and I think good storytelling is good structure. I don't know how to say it any other way. And they harp on structure in a writing workshop all the time. I got the dreaded MFA. I'll say the dirty word, right? But there's a reason that people in workshops and people when they're training to be writers obsess over structure because structure is story. People think in story. If you want to grab somebody's attention, you want to hold it. There's a reason these ancient story forms are so prevalent and
absolutely.
repeated. And now too, we joke a lot about media literacy, right? But even the dimmest of midwits, the middest of midwits, understands story structure in a really visceral and implicit way. So for certain audiences, you can just assume that people know about the hero's journey. They've internalized it. So there are things you can do as a savvy dramatist or an aspiring dramatist to sort of twist expectations. Who is the protagonist? What exactly is happening? You have a character switch into a different character. You've got this is why I love and this is obvious, right? But I love someone like David Lynch because he's just subverting all those expectations and not holding your hand and twisting things
Absolutely.
around. And yeah, so it's fun, and I had a really good time writing Basilisk. It was tricky too because we finished part one, put it in the can, like went and recorded it, and we had not written part two. So, and anybody who's written a play knows you want to write to the end and then go back to the beginning and then make sure it all tracks. We did not have that luxury, but I love that. I love a deadline. I love
Yeah.
slamming the door behind me and going, okay, that's out in the world. We're going to put it out. Now we got to write part two in such a way that it's coherent. Sometimes when I was a young writer, it's like, oh, I just want to do anything and everything and I want to be free. As you mature, I think you realize that restrictions and deadlines and boundaries are and rules that you impose
Definitely.
on yourself really can help. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember rereading Nutcracker just to confirm that because I mean, I actually did write it over a pretty condensed period, about 4 or 5 months. But I finished it and I'm like, well, okay, I better reread this thing closely to make sure that everything actually lines up and I didn't, use the wrong name or whatever. And that is,
Sure.
there's definitely an element of, as you say, if you publish and I'm, potentially going to experience this with Nutcracker too, because I'm
Woo.
considering publishing it serially on my Substack before
Oh,
releasing
wow.
it as, the finished item,
That's a
as a
that's a great
physical
idea.
copy. Yeah, yeah.
I would definitely subscribe
Oh,
to
thank you.
the nut stack.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like it'll also just give me an incentive to keep writing because, I have a busy career and, it's if, as you know, writing a play, whatever, a novel, you're alone, you're, with your thoughts and it's a long road. But if you're publishing a chapter here, a chapter there, getting feedback, that drives you to some extent. So yeah, I mean there's certainly something to be said for letting the dogs out early.
Have you begun writing
I have,
it?
yeah. I
Okay,
have
all right.
a the prologue is almost finished and I have a chapter that was originally designed for a contest. I'm going to be published. I'll just say it right now. And Outcast Press is putting together a volume of stories called Slut Vomit, and I was going to have a chapter of Nut 2 in there, but as it turns out, I didn't finish the chapter in time. So they're going to use one of my short stories, Doxing Dom, which is on my Substack, danbaltic.substack.com. But yeah, this chapter, writing kind of out of that's not ideal, but in a way, I do kind of like the challenge of you write you know, I write the prologue, I write another chapter, I figure out how to get from there to there. It creates a certain I think that kind of in some ways sparks creativity.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, and you've already proven that you can write a novel. You've proven it to yourself, you've proven it to your audience, and so I feel like people will be willing to go along with that journey and understand, hey, this chapter might change before it hits print.
Yeah,
But we're rolling as yeah, we're rolling with Baltic. We're rolling with the Nutman.
exactly.
Listen, and I want my $395 gilded patrician edition of Nutcranker and Nutcranker 2. We need to get some very high-end printed versions of these, like they
You're
are
you're
rare.
not gonna want to know what it's gilded with.
Yeah, no,
Just
right.
joking, just joking. I
Right.
wouldn't do
Yep,
that to my
yep, yep,
listeners,
yep,
my
yep, yep,
readers.
yep. Yeah, yeah. You
Uh,
unwrap it like a Magnum condom.
but yeah, no, it'll be amazing to get this out there, and there's so much to comment on. So I mean, like part of the premise, and then we should switch this back to you. It shouldn't be the Nutcracker
Oh no,
episode.
no, I'm a fan.
Uh,
I tell everybody to read Nutcranker. I
oh,
can't
thank
wait for
you.
Nutcranker 2. Yeah. So no. Yeah,
So
yeah.
like the premise is to some extent Spencer takes Times Square, and so Spencer's running around Times Square, and so there are figures who might seem
Mm,
familiar,
mm, mm-hmm.
not so familiar that it would create liability issues, but you know
Sure.
it's in I think anyone who's involved in the scene or this side of Twitter or whatever will
Uh-huh.
find this immensely entertaining, but also people who aren't,
Yeah.
it'll be good for everyone.
Listen, I'm a flyover Kulak chud, so I don't even know what you're talking about. Dime Square? Where? I can't wait to visit New York again, though. We'll see. Maybe next year we'll have to keep chatting about that.
Absolutely.
That sounds great, Dan. I'm very excited for it, and yeah, obviously people here. Hopefully, you've already read Nutcranker. I'm always telling people how funny it is. Really laugh out
Thanks.
loud funny. Yeah, really really good. Starts in a prison too,
That's
just like
true. Exactly.
Just like Basilisk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah. So.
he too has a roommate, Spencer, just like
Just
our
like
friend in Basilisk,
our
Gene.
hero in Basilisk. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Please, and everybody do please go listen to Basilisk. I know the producers are, they're watching the numbers and we want to see if we can get the new right bump for that. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I mean, it's like
It's
80
so
90
good.
minutes. Yeah, it's 80 90 minutes. Just put on some headphones and do what you're going to do and you could probably double screen it too, throw something on in the background, but just listen to it and doom scroll Twitter and ponder how you too may be creating your own AI doppelganger. That's coming for you.
So just to for the listeners who are not necessarily familiar with the plot, Basilisk, it opens. Guy is in prison. He is on kind of like spurious charges, seemingly related to his having constructed an AI that is about to have an IPO. It's going
Hmm.
to like revolutionize the world, but there's suddenly a problem with this AI, which
Yep.
it turns out, you know, I don't know if we want to be giving spoilers or what have you.
Yeah.
Stop me. But
No, no. It's
yeah,
just.
he
Mhm.
has some role in, helping to derail the AI because
Hmm.
the AI is super powerful, but also bad. It's the kind of Rocco's Basilisk scenario where, well, what if you had an AI that, wanted to punish people who didn't help it, come into the world or tried to stop it? And so, yeah, he's in prison and he's fearful of this emerging AI. It's a kind of a battle of wills between him, the AI, his family, his wife and children, who he wants to protect from this AI,
Hmm.
and the original founder of the company as well. And
There you
one
go.
of yeah,
Yep.
and one of the things that this kind of this it's a great drama. It's entertaining. As I said, you listen to it, it is something that you'll just enjoy and won't necessarily have to go rewind and say like, well, what did they say, what did they, but it does spark interesting philosophical discussions and ideas, and one of which is of course the uh, problem of AI. And this is obviously something that Kevin, you grappled with when you were writing it. What are your thoughts on AI? Is it going to be the existential risk that some people suppose? Is it going to be the panacea via AI reaching the singularity and solving all of our problems? Somewhere in between. What's the deal with
My,
AI?
all right. So, man, so many thoughts.
Sorry, that's a big
No, no,
question.
no, no. So many thoughts there. The first thought that came to mind when you were asking the question is that I assume they've had something like this for a while. I typically assume that by this I mean consumer grade AI that we see. I just
Hmm.
assume anything we see has been invented and used by the military and by
It's a
government
good, yeah,
agencies. Yeah. So the question really is, how long have they had it? Like the stuff we're seeing, um, and how far is it actually now, right?
yeah,
Like, because they slowly prime us for stuff and then drop it on our heads. They
yeah,
don't just announce, "Hey, we've got this." Um, it's gonna be my second thought is that I don't think we can predict what it's going to do right now. I feel like it's 1991 for the AI
hmm,
relative to the internet.
yeah,
So I feel
agreed.
like in 10 years, it's going to be much more integrated with daily life in a way that is ubiquitous and invisible, much like the internet now is relative to 1991. If you were
Yeah,
very online in 1991, you were a fucking nerd,
yeah,
right? If
absolutely.
you were very online in 2001, you were a little bit ahead of the curve. By 2011, if you were not online, you were the weirdo. And especially by 2021,
Yeah,
you're a freak if you're not online. You're almost like Amish if you're
yeah,
not very online right now. And I have some bias there because I've been online since the mid '90s. But so I have a feeling we're going to see a similar progression from AI, so called. Um, I love how useful it is.
yeah,
It's a search beater in a lot of ways. I think a lot of us have Chat GPT open during the day, during the workday. There's an
hmm,
extraordinary amount of value there.
Hmm.
And I know that minds that are much more sophisticated than mine are already thinking about use cases to extract more value out of it. Now, we don't live in a very humane society where all of
Yes.
these value gains are going to be evenly distributed. I think it's perfectly reasonable to be concerned right now if you don't have wealth accrued, that starship is like leaving port. And if you don't have wealth now, and people talk about this a lot in crypto, and I've been in crypto for a while. Um, and I do crypto. I actually have a job for in crypto. Um, when I'm not podcasting or writing plays, right? People talk about this like as the cycles go along, they go, okay, this is the last cycle for you to gain generational wealth or become a pet. You and your bloodline become peasants for all time. That's a real anxiety people feel, and I understand that's crypto people kind of pumping themselves up to try to make it right. Oh God, I got to get rich now. I got to get rich now. But I think there's a real legitimate fear that when we talk about like techno capital,
Hmm.
now imagine techno capital backed by an intelligence that really is beyond the potential understanding of any single person.
Yeah.
Like a real, and this is a cliche, but we use it in the play too, a real Frankenstein's monster situation. And it may not be it's probably not going to come as a boogeyman in the night, right? It's not going to take over your car and drive you into a ditch and the car is going to explode like some bad 70s movie. It's going to be this slow, methodical grinding down of what remains of the human
Yeah.
if we're not careful. And those are a lot of scattered thoughts. But yes, I have thought about it a lot. But I want to be, I don't want to black pill on the AI thing either, because I think there's a lot of value. And, but, one of the things we talk about in the play is this idea that I think Chat GPT started as open AI. It was supposed to be some sort of not for profit, thing. And then it ended up getting hijacked. And I don't know the whole story, but I mean, my gosh, you would like to think that like maybe something like that, like the birth of this like new super intelligence, yeah, should maybe be a little bit regulated or should maybe be owned by humanity itself. So I don't know what the answer is. We're in new terrain. And of course we have like octogenarians in
Yeah.
Washington trying to legislate this stuff. And every time they speak, I just hear a dial-up modem.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
like,
the
yeah,
competency crisis is a huge thing. I mean, if I had to bet just, between, nuclear deterrence, these AI threats, all of this, without a more competent regime coming into power in the West. I mean, I think to some extent, I mean, I'm not a China expert, but they certainly seem to have a command and control structure that at least, is competent if, not aligned with the human flourishing. But yeah, I mean, the West, we just, you know what it is.
yeah.
So,
Well, I,
I mean, what are the odds that they, let one pass the goal?
mm,
Pretty good, I'd say. Pretty good. And, when letting one pass the goal means, a nuclear accident or something, that's,
sure.
so
Right. Well,
I,
and I mean, and we're as a country ostensibly, the greatest experiment in the individual, right? Like the United States
yeah,
hitherto has given more room to the individual than any society ever has, to a fault at times. Like this sort of a cult of the individual.
yeah,
It has its upsides, but it has its downsides. The downsides are alienation, and lots of other ones. But I mean, but the upsides are creative expression, explosive entrepreneurship, jazz, right? I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of upside to unleashing the individual, as the United States has now. But the AI is not individualistic at all. The AI is this great collectivist fire hose in its very nature. It's sucking up all the art and all the literature and all the social
Yeah.
media and all the information, and has a view of the world that is we can only point toward. We could never really imagine what it would be like. Not that the AI sees per se, but we have to imagine one day if it does some sort of find some sort of consciousness in the matrix of its own knowledge, that's its own story, and that's sort of the stuff of science fiction. Now, what is maybe frightening, we could really think of use cases right now for AI that would be terrible, right? Imagine you're a bad guy, right? You're a bad actor, or you just want
I'll have to
power.
imagine that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but very hard for you, Mr. Baltic. Let's imagine you're an evil person who's in pursuit of power. You have access to the data of, say, a company like Palantir, a company like Twitter, a company like Telegram, or you're a three-letter agency, right? You have access to data that the average person can only imagine. You have ongoing profiles of targeted individuals, people that you want to target. And now you feed that information in the AI and you say, how do we get this person? Like, I want to do X, Y, and the AI is going to come up with all kinds of ideas. Just that alone is
Yeah.
just like it's a nightmare scenario that doesn't stretch the imagination. I mean, we know since 9/11, since after that horrible event, this surveillance state came down over our heads. And, maybe Skynet itself won't become conscious, but that might not matter because
Yeah.
if the bad guys have their hand on the button and they
Yeah.
have all the information of a Skynet, that might even be worse
Yeah.
than the
Absolutely.
robot. So there you go. But my point is it is going to change the world to a degree that the internet did between 1991 and 2011. In 20 years, our world is going to be unrecognizable, and it will be known as the AI revolution. It's happening now, and uh it's going to be, maybe we'll talk again in 10 years, Dan, and we'll talk about how it's been integrated with everything from like shopping to, I mean, they're gonna create, you're gonna have a fridge that reads the items in your fridge, and you're just gonna have, and Amazon is just gonna be like dropping off what you need at your door, for
Yeah.
example. Just
I mean, they
just
already
basic.
do that with my printer. They keep
Yeah.
sending me new
Yep.
cartridges. Actually, they send me too many and overbill me. I think this is a feature and not a bug. So
There
yeah, I
you
mean, I think
are.
that there's a
Mhm.
good example right there. And I wanna turn it off, but I can't because it's just how the printer works. So if I opt out of this, I have to get a new printer, and I just don't have the time to, do the shopping. I need to print stuff every day. So
Sure.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, there's definitely an element of technological capture that I think will occur in connection with AI. And yeah, the possible surveillance uses are very, very worrying, especially
Mhm.
given, I don't think the current leaders of the country have the best interests of, well, let's say me in mind, and, many, many people who I like. So, I would be concerned about their having that much power.
hmm Yes, that much power and access to information and aggregate information that we can really only dream of, about individuals, where your phone's been, how often you use your phone, the nature of your use, where you located your car, where were you
Yeah,
driving. And this is all operating kind of in the subconsciously. We all kind of know this. But then what sort of intelligence does it take to aggregate that and to render meaning from it?
yeah.
Artificial intelligence is required. And now what happens when they do that at scale? We're going to
Well,
see these. Mhm. Yeah,
you could have perfect control, right? Because
right.
I mean, we live, I think, I think you would probably agree with me in that we live in a deterministic universe where there is such a thing as free will, but that thing really is determined by small events. And it appears to be free will, but and our, various religious backgrounds may, result in diverging opinions here. But I mean, I think generally free will is, unfortunately, it's something that's like, if I'm not going to say it's an illusion, but it's something that occurs in the margins of probability, where, like, it's like, oh, events are pushing you like such and such, and like you maybe there's some spark where you said, no, we're gonna go this way, but it's really very narrow, the kind of the bandwidth of actual free
Sure.
will. So if you had a super AI that knew people so very well, it could create the condition, it could guide you by events to certain outcomes that they know you'll inevitably or end up at, because this is all predictable.
Yes, yeah. It is sort of the ultimate Faustian nightmare.
Yeah.
This creature, right? So we always have the free will to love Jesus, and I say that, and I mean that. But as long as you're willing to concede
There.
that free will exists, there is, and that margin, that margin then is everything.
Yeah.
And that's really what our play is about. So I'm very very glad that you paid such close attention to it, Dan, and you really seem to get it. And we could talk about the nature of free will for a long time. You're right. It is sort of, it's scary, but it's also exhilarating. It's a very
Oh, sure.
exhilarating
Yeah.
time to be alive. And there are going to be wild success stories of people who use the AI to create businesses. People are already theorizing there's going to be a one person unicorn business at some point. Somebody's going to create something that has $1 billion valuation on their own with the help of AI, and I don't doubt it. It will probably happen. And I'm a market guy. I mean, as much as anybody. I mean, I don't. We're not going to like collectivize our way out of this problem.
Yeah.
So, we got to kind of confront this thing face first. I would say if you're young out there, though, I would definitely familiarize yourself with ChatGPT and its capabilities and start trying to weave it into your workday. I use, Grammarly, for example, uses AI, and they have access. I happen to know they have access to a ton of data that they're working with, and yeah, it's a really really exciting time, but also, like I said, kind of terrorizing simultaneously. um yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
One aspect of AI, and it's, possible, we discussed how it will put people potentially out of work in addition to controlling them. And I've been fascinated by the concept of AI's impact on the arts. And my takeaway from this is essentially that AI could very well put a lot of, airport thriller writers out of business, romance novelists, Michael Bay movie, type things. Because I mean, those are all generally, perhaps, there's, people who have certain brands, like Michael Bay is a brand, Lee Childs is a brand almost, and they have those brand loyalties, but it's not really to the writer, him or herself, or the artist, him or herself, I feel. So I think that AI could, very well, as it, advances, replace the artist as the entertainer, as the kind of like more base entertainer. But when it comes to literary fiction, when it comes to high art, I don't think, and this is just a quirk of human nature, I think. It's not that AI cannot produce a great literary novel. It's not that AI cannot produce a great painting, a great, masterpiece film. I think it probably eventually can. But I think the reason why people read these novels or go to these films is rooted in the cult of personality of the artist himself or herself. They want to read a Philip Roth novel because they want to know what is Philip Roth thinking now? What's he have to say? They want to go to movie by Pedro Almodovar or something. And
Yeah, they want to have something that's soulful and real. Yeah.
yeah, and see
Yeah.
what he thinks about these things. A Kevin Kautzman play, a Dan Baltic novel. People
Right.
people
Yeah, and
want
that
to
mhm.
see what you have to say. And that I think that is something that AI can never take away
I agree.
from the arts.
I totally agree. And also I think, well, so two things. One, it's driving us into an epistemological crisis, where we don't know, we can't believe our eyes now. We're already there. There was a moment a few months ago where online, like, some stuff came and went that was like, that's fake, but it looked real. 10 years from now, I, I just don't know. We're it's just going to have to be heavily curated what's real. Is
Yeah.
it's and there's going to have to be, like, I think Twitter is doing a good job with this, with the community notes and things, and I can only imagine what the content moderators are dealing with now. I mean, I wrote moderation in 2019. Uh, but I mean, in the algorithm too, there have to be building these algorithms to catch artificial content.
Yeah.
I mean, I assume this is one of the ways that ChatGPT and the other companies are going to make money, is that you're essentially going to have to license the antidote to the poison from them. To If you're
Yeah.
like a big tech company or Facebook or whatever it is, and you want to, like, prevent AI content from hitting screens, or like mold and shape how much makes it through, you're going to have to essentially have counter technology that I assume they're developing alongside their creation. So
Yeah.
that's a major,
Absolutely.
major factor. And then as far as the arts go, like, yeah, I mean, maybe there might be a resurgence in live performance, live theater. I mean,
Yeah.
um, I know bands make all their money from touring
Yeah.
now. I think with some very, very limited exceptions. So they got to go, because that's an experience you can't fake. You can't fake the funk, right?
That's right.
I just saw last night. I saw Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson and John
Oh
Mellencamp,
wow.
and out under the sky in Wisconsin. Really, really fun. The Boomers brought out their once a year hats. Their once a year I'm seeing Bob Dylan hats. And Willie Nelson is 91 years old and still playing that guitar.
Yeah.
So that stuff isn't going away, but how we mediate it is. And like you say, maybe the junk is going to get outsourced to the AI, and it may make more room for authenticity. Dan, I did something really, really evil in the background while you were talking.
All right.
I prompted Chat GPT. Can I read a few paragraphs
Yeah,
of
yeah.
a prompt? Okay. And you
Absolutely.
tell me if you don't want me to keep going. So
No, no.
I said, I think this would make good radio. So I
Yeah,
did. Write me the first three paragraphs of an erotic thriller pairing Michael Mann films with Lee Child softcore pornography about
yeah.
a about a Columbia educated loser in New York City named Spencer Grunhauer, who's in love with an elite female actress podcaster in Dime Square, New York, the alt-right literary and social scene. Do you want to hear what it
Yeah,
did?
yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. And by the way, this is never going to replace the Nut Man. This is never. I just thought this would be amusing,
Yeah,
right? You could
no,
do this
no.
anyway. Here's what
Absolutely.
here's what the AI said from that prompt. Spencer Grunhauer sat in the half-lit bar, eyes tracing the line of his whiskey glass as if it might offer some revelation.
Oh
Well,
my
that's
God.
horrible. Right away, it's horrible. Columbia had taught him the finer points of theory, but out here on the gridded streets of Manhattan, those lessons didn't add up to much.
Oh no.
Now,
This is
now,
actually starting to sound like Nutcracker.
no, 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 no. Now he spent most nights slipping in and out of the city's underbelly. See, it's just one cliche after the next, where the neon of Times Square was a distant hum, and Dime Square, the epicenter of the alt-right literary and podcasting scene, was where the real action unfolded. At the heart of it all was her. Her name was Veronica Lynn, a sharp-tongued actress turned podcaster with an audience that hung on her every sultry, biting word. With her half smirk and icy blue eyes, she controlled the airwaves and the small coterie of Brooklyn intellectuals who circled her like moths to a flame. She could dissect the nihilism of heat in one breath and tear into the latest pseudo-feminist manifesto with the next. Every time Spencer heard her voice over the crackle of his AirPods, his pulse quickened. He imagined her lips soft, venomous, whispering the same derision into his ear as she did to her audience. Anyway, we could
I
listen
mean,
to
that
that.
is really good.
I
I
yeah.
mean, so one thing that my takeaway from that is I don't know to what extent, I mean, I can't imagine that Chat GPT is familiar with Nutcracker, but that does sound like Spencer's voice or the third person close narration. The only item that, where there's a divergence is Spencer is obviously very politically incorrect. And you can't do that. It can't.
No, you my whole point of doing that was to show how you can't fake the funk.
Oh,
I
all
mean, you
right.
could probably no, no, no.
Well,
Yeah,
thank
this
you,
is you could
Kevin.
no, 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 no. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to say you're going
I
to
mean,
be
I didn't think
replaced
it
at
was
all.
bad, except
No,
for
no,
like it's a
it
little.
wasn't terrible, but there are little tells where you're just like it's too many cliches. It doesn't,
Yeah,
and it's also just like two paragraphs. So now listen, as a creative writer, if you're creating characters and you're, doing stuff, I don't have any problem if you use this. You just can't have it write your whole novel. Just can't have
yeah,
it right. And people will be able to tell, I am pretty sure, because
yeah,
it's not going to be able to sustain itself. It's not going to be able to create meaningful metaphor. It's not going to, do the little poetic things that a fine novelist is going to do. It's not going to understand humor the way
yeah.
that you do, and all of it. So anyway, I just thought that was a fun little experiment. I mean,
No, no, that's very
yeah.
interesting.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, one day perhaps I will have to do my O. Henry-esque battle to outcrank the machine. But
Yeah.
hopefully that is in the future.
We did cheat a little bit when we were writing Basilisk because there's a character that is the AI in Basilisk, and
Yeah.
we did use ChatGPT to generate some, and we actually pulled. There are moments where the AI in the script kind of goes off the rails. We actually pulled that from news stories about ChatGPT losing. There was a moment where it was like spouting Joycean gibberish at one
Oh,
point
wow. That's
for no
cool.
reason. Yeah, and so we actually pulled that and used it in the script and da da da. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, fun to think about. I'm optimistic about of the future of the arts. I just think people are going to be able to sniff out what's real. I don't think you're ever going to really be able to, to fake the funk. AI is never going to be able to write Blood Meridian. AI is never going to be able to write Nutcracker and have that voice intact. It's gonna, if anything, it's gonna be too perfect. It's gonna be too polished. It's
Yeah.
just gonna feel wrong. It's gonna feel wrong.
Agreed.
Hmm.
Do we have you for a little while longer?
Yeah, I can. Yeah,
Or
I can hang out. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because I wanted to hit on in Basilisk, you part of the play's theme is the basilisk comes alive and there's guilt on the part of the creator or maybe querulous guilt, not sure if it's if he's guilty, but of bringing another life into the world. And that is an awesome responsibility. In your episode of AOD on Cormac McCarthy, you and Brad briefly discussed in connection with the road the awesome responsibility of fatherhood, which is of course bringing being into the world and then taking care of it. Um, I'm kind of curious. The How do we feel about it? This is obviously a bit of a stretch here, but there's a natalism crisis. People aren't having kids, and this awesome responsibility of being. Is this just something that millennials, for a variety of reasons, but perhaps the most important reason is it's a hard and sometimes not obviously rewarding thing. Is that why millennials aren't having kids?
No, millennials aren't having kids because of the lack of faith in God. it all comes back to the God hole and the God question. And in
Mm.
my faith and in my catechesis, it was impressed upon me that God is a loving Father, and if
Yeah,
you embrace that is how God uh, comes to us, and through the Holy Trinity. I am a Catholic. All right, and if it's not for you, that's fine. I'm not proselytizing. This is my understanding of it.
sure.
If you don't believe in God, if you don't believe in the promise of the hereafter, if you don't believe in and let's do a little AA trick, right? Let's say you want to take all the God language away and you want to remove that I ever mentioned that I'm a Catholic. Take all that away, right? If you don't believe in good in the world, right, and you don't believe that children are good, then you simply will not do it because it is too hard. Uh, it's too easy now to avoid pregnancy. The state allows you to uh, end a pregnancy in most places. Um, it's just too easy. So if you don't have that belief on the other side, it's just simply not going. It's simply not going to happen. It also relates to the breakdown of culture.
Yeah,
Like, you talk about American society, to which I say it would be nice if we had one, right? I don't think that we
yeah,
live in a society. I think we live in fumes. I think we live in a simulation of a society. I think we're not all pulling together, right? And
yeah,
that's not
absolutely.
capitalism's fault. That's not Hitler's fault. That's not Stalin's art. It's our fault. It's our fault. We are to blame. And it's the culture of narcissism and the uneasiness people feel around presenting their children on social media is very reasonable.
Hmm,
And we don't revere motherhood the way that we ought to.
hmm,
Motherhood should be seen as extremely high status, and in our
absolutely.
culture, it's frankly seen as low status, or even worse, no status.
Yeah.
And so, if we want to solve the fertility crisis, and we don't all want to convert to the one true faith, which of course I think is going to be a hard sell here in the United States of America in the foul year of our Lord 2024. We have to find compromises, and we have to find language, and we have to find. I have four children, so just so you know, I have my money where my mouth is. I have a teenage daughter, and then I have three little ones. My oldest boy just started school.
Kevin's been
Put him on the.
busy.
Oh yeah, well you know how you get to Carnegie Hall. Practice, practice. That's the joke. Um, but you also want to you want to lead by example too. Like if you're one of these people concerned about natalism, you're concerned about family, you're concerned about family size, you're concerned about demographics, all of it. Have a family, start a family. I don't care if you're dead broke. Start a family. Your ancestors were broker than your ass will ever be.
Hmm,
My great grandfather, who was like an Irish peasant farmer in the Dakotas, left behind I think eight children after he had his guts ripped out in a farm accident. My
Jesus.
mom was the 11th of one of his daughters. They made it work,
Yeah.
right? Every kid does, and you got to get over your middle class priors here. You got to get over your bourgeois priors, because I guarantee, like the rich have as many as they want because they're rich, and the poor have as many as they want because they're poor. It's the
Yeah.
middle class that's like, I can't afford it. Well, I got a good buddy of mine. We went and saw Dylan together last night, and this guy's like an older brother to me, and he said his father, who was like a fireman, said, and this is a very artistic guy. This buddy of mine works for the post office, but he's just a very creative dude.
Hmm,
Great taste. He said to me that his father said, if you wait until you're ready, you'll never have them.
yeah. Makes
You're
sense.
never ready. You're never ready. We had number three here, and I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. I was a mess. I was a mess.
Yeah.
She was a mess. It was difficult. It's hard. But then the flip side of it is it's so rewarding, and they're
Yeah.
so wonderful, and it's a fresh start. And it's seeing the world through their eyes. They lie to you. Children are not expensive. They
Hmm,
lie to you. It's in your head. Every baby doesn't need their own room.
yeah.
You can sleep on a couch in the basement while the baby's, young and crying every night. You
Yeah.
go to work, you work a job. You don't need the PlayStation 5. All right.
Yeah,
You don't. There's a way to make it work. Our parents made it work. Our grandparents made it work. Our great grandparents made it work. We are all and again, if you want to just go full Reddit and like take God out of the equation, we are all the product of 1,000 generations of people who made it work.
true.
If you're not a God person and you feel like you can't handle it, just remember you were genetically like created through history, through time, even before history, through deep time to drop you right here, wherever you're dropped right now. And if nothing else, your genes carry all kinds of information that make you adapted to survive in this moment at this time. And the fulfillment of your life on Earth does not have to be children, but for most people, it's the greatest thing you'll ever do. Okay, you hit a soft spot for me there, Dan.
No,
What do
no,
you think? I mean,
it's
yeah,
appreciative.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, so in my own life, I have a long-term girlfriend. We have not yet had a child, but obviously we're planning on it. But as you note, there's no time like the present. She'll enjoy this episode, believe me. So she's been she wants to get going.
Oh, all right.
So,
Oh, bada bing, bada boom. Listen,
so
that's what I'm saying. And you got to, and I'm going to tell you right now, Dan, you got to start practicing dad jokes. Like if you're, and I have no doubt that you're going to have no trouble conceiving. But listen, if you start working on your dad jokes before you're a dad, I just know that God smiles on this. This is,
absolutely.
well, that's great
Yeah,
news, man.
one.
And I wish you all the luck. Yeah.
Oh,
Mhm.
thanks. Yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing that I noticed, just from, my own kind of perspective, I would say that I'm, not religious in an organized sense, but I'm not an atheist. I do, I suppose I'm like have an alcoholic's conception of the higher power that, maybe is that's my teleology. But in this, under this kind of conception, I've noticed that, I look back to my childhood and I think, how I'm an only child, but regardless, I remember, aunts, uncles, Christmas, everything being very, warm memories, very rich. Certainly it's not that way for everyone. Not everyone has, a good child, but regardless, if you do have family in your life, you have, some, good and bad memories, but you have memories. And what is, I think, occurring, probably in my life, but I think in, other millennials who are, have careers and are not, forming families, the years just kind of go by and you remember like, oh, that was a nice dinner. That was a nice party I went to. That was a nice vacation. But the kind of like the real kind of blood of life, um, that is, that's family. And I still I'm close with my parents, but I mean it's a different vibe when you're like almost 40 and your parents are, much older. That's a very different type of situation. So yeah, I mean, I think just for to prescribe to millennials more broadly, I I think they won't regret creating the basis for new and rich, memories and emotional lives, which, are kind of, present their own unique challenges. Like you might, be like, oh, I want to get to X in my career. I want to have X amount of time to write, whatever. But, you could do all of that and then, 30, 40 years from now, you realize, oh, wow, uh, I don't really remember too much, and that seems like it would be very that it would be a mistake.
Yeah, right. I mean, in the way that it's understood in the Catholic Church is that, people can lead a life as a single person and be a really, really fulfilled and, I guess, serious part of a community. I'm not saying that that parenthood is a necessity, but it's understood that a marriage is about the children and that
Hmm.
the sex act is about children.
Yeah.
And, do I buy every single last consequence of that? No, I'm a modern person. I do my best, right? We say in Catholicism, we're practicing. All right. We do our best. And I shouldn't joke too much about it. But there's some real wisdom in that. And it's like you say, and we can meet in this middle ground of history and memory. If
Yeah.
you want to live historically, it means thinking about your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents and what they left you and what you're going to leave for the people who come after, whether they're your children or the next generation. And narcissists live in the now. Be here
Yeah.
now, Dan. Be here. And that was
Which,
the whole boomer hippie trip.
yeah.
And there is some value to be here now. I understand the meaning of what they're trying to say. They're like, don't live in the past, don't live in the future, try to actually be present now. Okay. And then what? Right.
Exactly.
And, personally, my now, I carry with me the culture and the tradition of the people who came before me, and I'm mindful about what's going to come after. So yeah, it's that narcissism thing, man. You just got to get over narcissism, and you got to get used to like birthdays. My son has the same birthday as I do. My birthday, not about me, and it hasn't
That's
been for many years. Yeah,
yeah, that's
and I don't.
great. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
and I, and this I had a birthday recently. I thought mostly about my mother on
Hmm.
my birthday who's passed away many years ago. And so I mostly thought about her. And I said a little prayer for her. And do you know, and I'm not a saint and I'm not some special guy or anything. It was more just a very meditative day where I was thinking mostly about that. I wasn't worried about anybody getting me anything or taking me out to dinner. And it happened in the most natural way possible. And on reflection, I take that as a sign that like things are probably going well because it's not all always about me. And
Yeah.
as a young man, I was really narcissistic and really grandiose and really egotistical. And very few things will knock you out of that immature loop faster than children because you have to. That's another thing. If you're afraid of having children, I promise you, yeah, you will come up to the level that's demanded by that responsibility.
Yeah.
Uh,
I
so
mean,
that's
it definitely seems like, you have the kids out there, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I have to protect and provide for this kid. And that, will, obviously give you added mission in your own life. I I mean, I think we all, to some extent, have dependents in some way. Like, but yeah, I mean, there's no dependent like a child, I would imagine.
no,
So,
no, no. There's nothing like it. I mean, it's extraordinary, and the world responds to it too. Because once you're a father, once you're a mother, your role in life is forever changed, and the amount of standing you have in subtle ways just changes. And we want in this society for rites of passage, and the ultimate rite of passage is having children. And so. I say embrace it. I love my children. Obviously, it's been a tremendous challenge, but things have happened in my life especially since my son was born, but even from when my older daughter was born, that have just motivated me and changed me and helped to make me who I am today. And I'm happier than I've ever been.
amazing.
And I love my kids. So I would encourage anybody, if you're even having the germ of the thought, to think about it. But also, like, I'll tell you something. I harbor a secret thought here, Dan, and that's that nobody plans. You can't you
Yeah.
can't plan to have a family. So just even
Good
even if
point.
you
Good point.
yeah, it just hey, listen, just pull the goalie, see what happens, and and there you go. I got to say this. Somebody made a great tweet recently about AA. As we were talking about, you have the alcoholics.
Yeah.
Somebody tweeted about AA. They were like, "It's so hilarious that they found a cure for alcoholism, and it's just Protestantism." That's if you've ever been to an AA meeting, that's it's pretty funny. Anyway,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
definitely a lot of Protestants who are immune to that cure, but
Well,
that
and
I
yeah,
can think
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah, and Catholics for
And
sure.
yeah, well,
Hmm.
that I mean, Irish,
Hmm.
that goes without saying. So,
Absolutely. There you go.
um, one, fine, if not final, but another point I wanted to hit on was to keep going on this question of being and the nature of being itself, not just bringing life into the world, but you are a being. You do the act of being, in a Heideggerian sense, etc. And this is, obviously something that is not without downsides. It's it being is to be is to suffer in some sense, and to what is what's your take, because they raise this in Basilisk on the pros and cons of being.
Of being itself. What an incredible question. It
Sorry,
really
yeah,
is
I'm
amazing.
lobbing
No, no,
these real yeah.
no, no, no. I mean, I have, yeah, and I mean, I studied philosophy, formally, and I went to a state school, unlike certain people. But I think that being is a positive good. And again, I'm going to defer to and default to my understanding of the catechesis of the Catholic Church, and it's that how did God come to us in the world? God came to us as His own Son, gave us His only begotten Son as the ultimate and final sacrifice to reveal the new and final covenant of His agreement with us, of His promise to us. Not an agreement, it's a promise to us. He holds his hand out to us. We have enough free will so that we can take that hand, even in the darkest moment. I believe that somebody could be the worst killer, the most horrible person in the world, and be redeemed. I do. I don't. I think, and I challenge anybody to argue against that. If you believe God's omnipotent, it stands to reason that his power extends even into the bottom of hell. And
Yeah.
I've experienced that myself in my own life. I mean, I've never done anything as egregious as to kill someone, but we're also taught that, like, sort of, we all kill Christ and we all killed Christ and we all sort of do it every day by rejecting him. And of course, you can
Mm.
replace Christ with just goodness, that conscious, that
Yeah.
conscience that you have in your heart that tells you you're cheating, you're lying, you could do better. You're morally missing the mark. To sin is to miss the mark. So being itself, right, is a positive and a good thing. And how can we doubt that our own being is ultimately good? Our nature has enough good in us to be worthy, created by God in God's image,
Mm.
and the image that God gives to us in the church and in Christianity is that of the. How does it come? It comes as a holy family. We
Mm.
talk about the holy family, and that's at the center of. You were talking about your memories of Christmas.
Yeah.
These central images that we have in this faith of a little baby in a manger, which of course is where the animals eat their grain from. It's all symbolically predicting, the final sacrifice, and then the Last Supper, right there from the first moment in the manger. It's
Mm.
all there, and the images that God has given us through Christ are the image of this perfect family. And so I
Yeah.
think in family life is God. In family life are the ultimate sacrifices. And again, you don't have to accept all of the Catholicism and all the Christianity to get on board with this, because if we understand spirituality to be something about, let's take it into real modern language that everybody who's watched TV can understand, right? Let's say it's all about spirituality is all about killing your ego,
Mm.
getting over the I and finding the we,
Yeah.
in a real meaningful way, like the ugly I, right? We all know what that is. The greedy little piglet that wants what he doesn't deserve, wants it yesterday, and is bitter at the world for not getting it. So you want to just get over that, and that spirituality is the thing that is going to take you to the top of the mountain. Family, family. If you can't learn to sacrifice for your own children, for your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncles, the people around you as they age, if you're not doing all that, you're going to be no use to society as a whole. And
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I personally believe that the smallest unit of society is the family. It's not the individual. And I think
Yeah.
it's one of the worst things that America's done has sort of convinced us that it's the individual, and all the law treats it like that. And I understand it's a mixed bag, but I personally try to think about my family and my even my extended family, but especially my nuclear family, the people I'm related to. That I try to think of us all as a unit, as one. Um,
Yeah.
and that's one of the things I get from my Catholic faith. Yeah,
And obviously the laws reflect that. They, try to optimize for the individual. Um, you know, in more recent years, perhaps optimize for some groups of individuals more than others. We won't get into that too much here,
sure,
but
sure.
the law in general in the United States is, yeah, it's, as you say, the liberal, in the
It's the
capital
Enlightenment,
L,
and it goes all
enlightenment.
the way. Yeah.
Yeah, it it's about man as a single free unit,
Right. And
and
mhm.
as a result the laws do not prioritize the things that are necessary for family formation, or are helpful for family formation, and perhaps that was not needed in 1776, but today, yeah, you definitely, I think you could use a nudge from the government to or not, but from, yeah, I mean, okay, so we do
Sure.
have a government. We do,
I listen, I mean, you want a real proposal, to putting all the church stuff aside. I think if you have three or more children in wedlock and remain married, you should be exempt from capital gains and income
yeah,
tax, or you should have your income tax knocked down by
absolutely.
points. But that's not what they're going to do, because they don't want to encourage strong middle class family
No,
formation.
yeah. I mean, they
They
they'll give you money, but sometimes only if you're not married and have children, which is
Yeah, right,
really messed
right.
up. But
It's super messed up. It's a very, very strange system with very, very strange incentives, and they understand that like strong families that unite together can pull people out of the spreadsheet. It
yeah,
fucks up their spreadsheet, because if you're born in this, getting back to the AI, if you're born in this zip code, in this month, in this year, to these parents, they have a pretty good idea what your life's going to look like. They think they can kind of predict certain behaviors from out of you, how
yeah,
much you're going to consume, what you're going to commit to the tax base. They have all that planned out for decades, based on that. If you live in a family compound where you all pool resources together and you include your extended family, you might start bartering. And if you
yeah,
start bartering, you're not paying taxes because you're not making an income. You're bartering. You see, there's a very clear reason they don't want these big, strong, extended families that go out and kick
yeah,
ass and take names. And they make it seem declassé too. Large families are sort of like, you know, it's
yeah,
seen as sort of trashy somehow. And I just personally say fuck them. I mean, it's your life, and I really will say it's the most important thing. I'm not a great dude. I am not predisposed to being a family man. Like it was a long time coming. I had a divorce, and I had, I'm still friends with the mom, and we're close. She's
yeah,
family. She'll always be family. But like I'm not. I didn't know I'd come on this pod and make this case, but you brought it up, and it's like, just do your damn best with it, man. That's what
yeah,
you're gonna leave, but it's what you're gonna leave behind is your grandkids
absolutely.
and your great grandkids, and some shit posts, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
To I mean, that's a very beautiful point. My point with regard to being is perhaps maybe less enlightened or whatever, but I remember, it's maybe it's even juvenile, but a touchstone for me is the film The Gray. I don't know if you ever saw it, but with Liam Neeson, and it's a kind of cheesy film in some respects. He's this kind of hunter who is with this. I think it's like a fishing commercial fishing crew, and they crash land in Alaska, and they're being stalked by wolves. And the wolves pick off everyone besides him, who is the hunter. And at the end, he thinks he's like maybe escaped, but he learns that he actually has stumbled into the den of the wolves, and he's facing the alpha wolf, the big boy, and the other wolves have surrounded him. So there's no question as to, the outcome here. He's not going to make it out. And nevertheless, immediately he like it duct tapes a knife to his hand, and he duct tapes like some broken, little whiskey bottles to his other hand, so he can, start fighting this big wolf. And in his mind, he flashes back to a poem that is written by. It turns out it's not a real poem. I thought it was, but it was written by the director. But the line is something like, "Once more into the fray, into the last good fight I'll ever know." And to me, that, I return to that, and I think every moment is an opportunity for action. Every moment, even if it's potentially going to be terrible, would you rather not be there at all? Would you rather not, have the opportunity to kind of rise to the occasion and, um, you know, achieve or, exert your will? I mean, I think I'd rather, or even in extenuating circumstances, have the chance to act. And I think that, the horror of being is something that, is maybe in some sense best addressed by like the Jocko, like, great, things are terrible, wonderful, I love it.
Right, 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 right. This
Yeah,
sucks. Lean into the suck. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Right. I mean, and yeah, and that's the maybe the opposite side of what I'm saying, where you have free will, you can always choose to love Jesus. At the same time, you can also go, all right, I love Jesus, and damn, this paper route is brutal. I had a paper route when I was a kid. I did it. I finished my paper route every day. You push through, it builds character. Nietzsche, that which does not kill us makes us stronger. And that is,
Absolutely.
and those two things can coexist, right?
Yeah.
Love is not soft. Love is not womanly or feminine in like the in the sense of like being flaky. I'm not
Flowery.
saying yeah, I'm not flowery. Yeah, exactly. I don't mean women are, flaky. But I
Yeah.
mean, and if you think that love is somehow flaky or whatever, love a woman, have a child with a woman, be there during labor, and which is war, and then go through that with her and be there for her as much as you can be, and then be there when the child is at home. Like, love is not weak. Love is
Yeah,
not weak. That's what I mean to say.
absolutely.
And yeah, man. And love wants to share itself, and love wants to know and to be known. And when we're told that we are made in God's image and God is a loving father, that points you in the direction of how this thing is going to go for most of us. Most of us aren't going to be holy men or holy women hidden away in a convent or on a mountainside or in a cave, right? Most of us are going to live in this world, and the highest vocation that we're ever going to have for most of us is probably the family. And even those among us who have artistic aspiration, I don't know, how many children did Dostoevsky have? Let's
Quite
ask
true.
Chat GPT.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously it can coexist. And I mean, I'm sure history is replete with artists who are bad, not so good
Yeah.
fathers. But
No, yeah, of
regardless,
course, of course. Yeah.
yeah.
No, but I like what you're saying to say, and Dostoevsky had four children. One of whom died at 3 months old. That's another
Oh,
thing too. Like you think about like how they used to do it in the past, man. They suffered so much more than we do.
oh
Our
yeah.
war right now is like a war for reality and a war for our minds, right? Like we don't suffer physical deprivation. Most people listening to this podcast right now, you may have grown up in poverty or you may have experienced some poverty, but I mean, relative to like Dostoevsky, not really, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, we're very fortunate in that sense. But our torture is mental.
Yeah.
We drive ourselves crazy, and then the world kind of drives us crazy, and all the rest of it. But I really like what your point, Dan, about, being happening in action.
Yeah.
And and I would say, I know in my worst moments, it's been about feeling powerless. And I know, for example, my desire to write came out of a feeling of powerlessness and of needing to express something that I couldn't get over one to one. I couldn't get
Yeah.
over in culture, in my day-to-day life. You can always write. You're not powerless. You can always write. There's nothing stopping you, especially now. So if you're ever feeling powerless, or like if you're a young person and maybe you feel like it's such an uphill battle to get where you want to be, like, just remember, you know, you can you could do the funniest thing ever and start a blog.
Yeah.
I
Or
mean,
a podcast.
or a podcast. I mean, the barriers to entry are very low. I'm gonna watch this movie, The Gray. That actually looks pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
I like
It's
Liam Neeson.
very, as the
Yeah,
kids say, it's very Kino.
Kino. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, did you go see Romulus?
No, I want to. I mean, that's another one of the things about having a girlfriend. She's not gonna
She didn't
be.
want to see
So
it.
I need to find some Dan time to actually. I have what I really want to see is I haven't seen Covenant. I love Prometheus.
Oh yeah,
Covenant's on. I know that Covenant is on Hulu now, so that's on my
yeah.
list. But yeah, I've heard good things about Romulus as well.
Listen, I used to be a huge gamer, and I gave it up, like after college, to go focus on career, and I made
Yeah.
a choice. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be that guy who's 29 years old, sitting on the couch playing Call of Duty. I was like, that's
Yeah.
not going to be me, and I'm glad I did, because now on the other side, I can actually enjoy myself by playing. Every so often, I'll dip into a game, and I can actually relax and enjoy myself, knowing I've accomplished a few things. Um, but dude, Romulus got me to play Alien Isolation. You ever heard of
Okay.
this?
No, no. I'm not a gamer. I was growing up, but for some reason, like freshman, sophomore year of high school, I was just like busy with, school, whatever. And yeah, PS2 was my last
That was where you cut
system.
off?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, I played Alien Isolation, and this game is already 10 years old. It was like playing through a movie. You play Ripley's daughter.
Okay.
It scares, it's designed to scare you to death. And
Hmm.
the alien has like an AI, or like a learning model. So it changes how it responds, the xenomorph, depending on how you play. So if
Oh
you play a
wow.
certain way, it changes its behavior. Speaking of AI, so man, I had a great time playing that. It scared I was scared to death. I was up at night at like 2 a.m. With the lights out, and I had my earphones on, and I'm crawling around the spaceship. I had such a great time with that, man. Hopefully
I'll
they
have to
make
check
a
that
they
out. I remember
yeah.
Silent Hill scaring the hell out of
Hmm.
me. And
Yeah.
yeah, like video games, I should get back into them a little bit because I mean, I think there's like a lot of potential for it as an art form. Although from
Mhm.
what I understand, there's a certain element of ideological capture with video game companies today. And
This I listen, I this was one of the best. This is the best solo play experience I've ever had. I had so much fun playing it. I got obsessed. I played it. It probably took me 20 hours to play through. I was up late, 2, 3 nights in a row. I had so much fun. I've been raving about it to people. I don't know, whatever. I'm late. It's like, again, it's like a 10-year-old game. But that's one of the good things about getting off that treadmill. You can go back and play an older console, an older game, and it's brand new to you. I can't imagine where it's going to be in 10 years too. Like, it's just, I know that's such a boomer thing to say, man, but it's like the pace everything's going, and then like AI. Imagine AI helping. AI is going to help with the creation of movies. It's going to help with the
oh,
creation of
absolutely.
video
Yeah.
games. It's going to expedite the creation of games. It's going to expedite. Maybe that's the word, and the final word I'll have on like what I hope it does for the arts and creativity. I hope it serves as it serves to expedite it. I don't want the AI to be the chef, but if the AI helps get the chef the ingredients faster, you know what I mean, so the chef can make
Yeah,
more.
absolutely.
That's what I'm hoping for from the AI. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, that and a word that is overused and used by people we don't necessarily like the most. but I think it will democratize
Ah,
the access to producing entertainment. So like when you have a powerful AI that can make a film, well then suddenly I don't have to raise $500,000 to shoot Nutcracker the movie and forego buying an apartment. I can just use the AI to do it. And
right. Or
yeah,
yeah, or you could use the AI to help you do a proof of concept that then gets the attention of some
yeah,
indie
yeah,
producer who wants to give you $2 million to make an indie version of it. Yeah, there we gotta stay positive, about what the AI can help us do because it's not all going to be bad. It's going to be a mixed bag. It's going to be like the internet. The internet gave us, I don't know, we met each other through the internet, Nutman,
absolutely.
right? But then it
Yeah,
also like unleashed OnlyFans on the world and created additional evil. Like
yeah.
just so it's like it's a combo. It's a mixed bag. We're human, all too human, and the technology is gonna sort of reflect our broken, fallen nature. But
Absolutely.
we can always choose the good, I think.
That's right. We have free will in some marginal and limited capacity. But nonetheless, free will.
But it's extraordinarily important those choices that we make. It's maybe it's marginal, but I really think over a lifetime,
Yeah.
we're all maybe steering toward an iceberg and the iceberg is evil. And if it's like over your life, if you can just kind of nudge yourself, maybe you can steer clear of some of the worst of it.
And those are truly, I think, heroic moments because, I
Mm.
mean, the okay, I haven't defended anyone from like, muggers or whatever, so I'm not going to say that that's not heroic. I'm sure it is. I'm sure there, but if you're, let's say, someone who's trained and it's just like, kind of muscle memory, whatever, I think difficult choices. There's a lot of heroism in that.
Yeah, and they're not always very glamorous.
Yeah,
You maybe you keep the baby.
yeah,
Maybe you, I don't know. Maybe you don't buy the new car, you buy the used car and you give the money to help your cousin needs rehab or whatever, right?
yeah,
Little
absolutely.
unsung quiet stuff that it isn't for the algorithm,
Yeah,
you know?
and
Yeah.
you just made that choice. Kind of
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
middle somewhere, and you just you found
Yep.
the will to push it
Well, and then
the right
the other
direction.
and maybe we'll wind down. I know you were we had it, yeah. But we talk a lot about pride, and we decided over on the Art of Darkness podcast that January is shame month. We
Oh
decided
yeah, I
that
remember that.
yeah, we're going to
What episode
inaugurate.
was that? Was
I
that
can't re
the I think that was the DeVere episode.
it might have been. Yeah, it
Yeah,
might have been
that was a great
around.
episode.
Oh, well, Brad did a fine job on the DeVere episode. For people who don't know, we did a double header where Brad covered Shakespeare DeVere, right, the Oxfordian position, and then I covered the Stratfordian position. I actually think was it that order? Might have been the
Yeah.
other way around.
The other way around, but yeah.
Yeah, well, in any case, very, very interesting. A couple of episodes. I learned a lot, and it might have been that one. It might have been Hangover from Marquis de Sade, which we did behind the paywall. But we
Okay.
decided that shame is a really, really good thing. There's room for shame,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I think that like in terms of free will, like if you feel terribly guilty about something, as the great Bill Hicks said, maybe you're guilty. Like maybe you should, maybe that was Doug Stanhope. In any case, like you can choose to respond to those feelings by not doing the behavior again, by
Yeah.
going to get help. Like maybe in the moment you didn't have free will the first time, but after multiple times, right? Hopefully you've learned enough that you can
Yeah.
again kind of nudge, and that's
There
where
was a moment in there,
right.
some flexibility.
Yeah, and I really think that's where our humanity lives. Our humanity lives in that reflecting. An animal doesn't reflect. The wolf doesn't reflect. The wolf doesn't bury its dead. The
Yeah.
wolf just knows it's dead and it moves on, right? We reflect, we pause, we look back, right?
And so
So
far, neither does AI. So we're
as far as we know, as far as we know.
stay tuned, I suppose.
Yeah, stay tuned. Dan, thanks for having me, man. I've really enjoyed this
Absolutely.
conversation. And I hope you guys keep doing New Right and we can, keep collaborating. And you got to come on Art of Darkness for a dark room soon. We got to do one of those
Absolutely.
sometime.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
I'm on board. Great to have you on, Kevin. I think we did all the plugs at the beginning. If there's anything else you want to shout out right now, go ahead. But otherwise, I'll bring us home.
Yeah, just the URLs, artofdarkpod.com, moderationplay.com, badmouthtc.com. Go listen to Basilisk on Spotify. Just look up Dark Pony Radio Basilisk, just like it sounds. And I hope you enjoy.
Go get it. Good stuff.
Thanks again.